Kia ora mai tātou. E te tuatahi, ko taku nei rongo, kaore rātou te hau kāinga e pōwhiri whakatau i a koutou. Nō reira, nei he Ngāti Tūreiti, he mihi kauana ki a koutou nei, ngā manuhiri tuarangi, patai mai nei i tēnei ra ki te riu o Tauranga Moana. Nō reira, nau mai haramai. Nau mai haramai, piki mai, kaki mai ki tēnei o tātou whenua. I raro te maru o tātou maunga a mawao. Nō reira, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa. Kia ora everybody, my name's Antoine Coffin, and as I've been introduced and as in the booklets, I'm the former everything and the current nothing. So that gives me great flexibility to talk about lots of different things that you may or may not agree with or disagree with. Firstly, I'd just like to acknowledge those who have travelled afar here to Tauranga Moana. It's a lovely day today. The weather is always like this in Tauranga Moana. And certainly wish you safe travels to those who are travelling afar this afternoon and this evening. As introduced, I'm going to talk about friend, foe or relation in regards to local government. I was reminiscing with a friend here. It's been quite some time that I've come to a conference where I'm actually one of the younger ones. So it's quite nice to stand up here and speak as one of the young ones to my peers. This is an iwi retrospective of the relationship between local government and post-settlement iwi, particularly here in Tauranga Moana. As we're in the graveyard shift, I did a quick change of my presentation last night, so there are pictures on every single slide. No graphs, just pictures. So if you don't remember anything I said this afternoon, at least you would have remembered some of the pictures. A marriage of convenience. So my ancestor married your grandmother, the Queen Victoria, Queen of England, a little while ago in about 1840. Never got to meet her, neither did my ancestor. But we were married, a marriage of convenience. It was an arranged marriage, and the marriage lasted for 24 years. Not bad, 2.5 decades. But it turns out that I was one of her many husbands. She had treaties with many others all over the world. At the end of 24 years, we had a very messy divorce. We had a war. Some people died on both sides. Our lands were confiscated. We didn't get half, but we survived. So we call that irreconcilable differences. She got the beach house, the cars, my favourite golf clubs, and the golf course. I got the swamp and the kids. Turning my mind to local government, I met you in 1974. You talk differently now, but you pretty much look exactly the same as you did then. Things have changed. Now, we, Tauranga Moana Iwi, are the #1 landowner here. We just happen to retain 22,000 hectares of our lands. We used to call it swamp, now we call it wetland, and it's worth something. If we pay our rates, we will be the biggest ratepayers in Tauranga Moana. There's an opportunity there. We recently went through our treaty settlements process. A lot has been made of the treaty settlements process, including myself. We started out in 1981. We had a very modest settlement of $250,000 that our kaumātua were able to secure at that time. We bought a couple of orchards and we grew that asset into something quite special today. In 2007, with others around the country, we settled our fisheries treaty settlements and received a modest amount of quota of our fisheries, and we're also involved in aquaculture. And in the last 2 years, last year and this year, we secured probably our most significant settlements for quite some time. But in terms of time, there was more than 60,000 hours over 3 years on one of those settlements, and a few thousand of those hours were mine. So it just gives you an idea. If we're working on $10 tauranga, that's a good investment of time. But if you're valuing your people and their input of what else they could have been working on, I'm not so sure. But we did increase our asset base by about 5%, and we got some cash in the bank. So that, I'll just go back. So that converts to about 1,200 hectares of land. That's made up of some 700 odd hectares of plantation forestry, 500 hectares of cultural reserves, and about 51 residential properties. So you'll be thinking, where are those residential properties? Look next door. Me or one of my cousins might be renting the house next to you, and it's owned by the iwi. Or you've always been wondering who's that useless landlord next door who never seems to mow their lawns or fix the fences. The chances are that property belongs to us, and we'll be along soon to make sure that you contribute half to the repair of the fence. But seriously, the settlements reflect at the present time about $60 million worth of resources. This decade you'll see the settlements be around $200 million, and they will increase exponentially, both in part because of the value of property in the Western Bay of Plenty, but also some of the long-term investments that we'll be making over the next 5 to 10 years. So you'll be expecting to see that settlement double over the next 5 to 10 years. Pillow talk. So since we've had this relationship, a de facto relationship since 1974, we do have the chance to get and talk together. And some of the things I've been sharing with you is that our cousins over in Waikato are wanting to go and live with them. But we're always from Tauranga. We've been here for a very long time, for hundreds of years, and we'll be here for hundreds more. Yes, we'll go and visit our cousins in Waikato. We'll even go and visit our cousins in Te Arawa, but this is home, and this is where we'll invest long term. Did I tell you that we own the schools? I'm not going to tell you today which schools you own, but we own most of the schools here in Tauranga. But also it's all about the water, and we've had our last presenter talk about the water. The water is one of our most precious resources. There's people, and then there's water. And yes, happy to do the small talk. We'll talk about those things that are important to local government. We'll have a bit of a talk about the pipes, and we'll talk about the footpaths, and we'll talk about the roads. But the stuff that we really want to talk about is education of our people. We really want to talk about the economy here in Western Bay, the Bay of Plenty. We really want to talk about the environment. We want to talk about the health of our people, and we want to talk about cultural identity. Yes, I know that the statute doesn't say that you're responsible for all of those things, but we still want to come and have a talk to you about that, because we're not all really keen on having a talk about the pipes and the roads and the footpaths, but we do it anyway. But it would be nice for you to come and have a talk about some of the things that are important to us. Education, we're doing some really important work in improving our NCA results. We've been talking both to Labour and National parties for years about trade training. We finally had a small recognition of there's going to be some work in apprenticeships and trade training. Hallelujah, wish that happened 5 years ago, but it's there, it's great, let's get on with it. And also encouraging our people into the sciences, but also knowing about themselves. Every single person, every student, most of them young people, but some of them older, more mature, every single student that applies to our iwi for a grant for education, we give them something. We don't turn down one of those applications for our education. That is our future. Yes, we're involved in fishing, farming and forestry, and we'll continue to do so, but in the future we'll be focused on food, building materials, housing our people, and healthcare. A lot of the talk today is about amalgamation and other such things, and there's a lot of rewords, and for us as iwi, we find the rewords very unhelpful, the restructure, the realignment, the resigned, the retired, the renamed, and the removed. But we'd really want to focus on adapting, admiring the great work that has been done, adjusting to new circumstances, adhering to the promises that we've made to each other, and adding value. We have a saying, it goes something like, he manu I te ngahere, koro ai te wao, ngā tamaiti, ngā tamariki, te kāinga, ko rai te iwi. If there are birds in the forest, that's a living forest. If there are children in your village, in your community, that's a living community. And I was quite inspired by the demographics and also cautioned by them as well in terms of where we are in the Bay of Plenty and also Tauranga, because we are having an ageing population and our children aren't producing as many children as they once did, as my parents' generation did. And certainly that's something that we're acknowledging. But one of the things we're really trying to do is retain our talent. So that's not saying we're going to stem the flow of the demographics for population growth, but we want to retain our best people here. We want to give them an excuse for staying here with us, because our families are going to Sydney, they're going to Melbourne, they're going to Brisbane, and they're going to other places in the world. And it's not the numbers that's affecting us, it's the who. Those people are our risk takers, those people are our explorers, those people are our most talented people from the communities. Those are the people that we rely on when they're the glue that holds our communities together. Without them, we're bereft of all of that talent and all of that opportunity. We're wanting to attract investment. My colleague and cousin, Tari Nicholas, spoke at a seminar in town earlier last week and talked about how we are nationally as iwi investing in property and development, business and creating jobs. However, there are other types of investors out there, particularly some of our annual superannuation funds, that are wonderful opportunities for us to invest in our region. But it's about connecting with them, making the opportunity, having that vision and connecting the dots. And we want to enable our communities to grow. So a lot of talk has been talking about regional infrastructure, regional structures. We're all about communities and making those communities grow on the ground. A language of friends. So if we're friends, we ask you to come along and have a listen, and you do the same for us. We'll work together on the arena cleanup, and we've been doing that. We also congratulate ourselves. Hey, Bay Park's been a winner. We're the first to acknowledge that. And you did a good job after the floods. Yes, we know a lot of the communities said everything that happened after the flood, including the flood, was the council's fault, but we think you did a great job in doing the cleanup afterwards and the work you did with the community. And I love it how I always get a straight answer from you when I ask for a plan change, for free of course, and a rates rebate. The language of foes. You know that you are my hoariri, you are my enemy, when we start using terms like LGA and RMA, so that'll be the first and last time I talk about them in this presentation. And I say something like you to listen to me when you make a decision. I tell you to take my views into account. I tell you to make sure I don't lose my land because of rates. And the wicked of all of them is you must recognise and provide for. As soon as I use those terms, you know that we aren't friends anymore. But we should be using these ones. The language of relations. I'm not quite sure if it's a marriage, a de facto marriage, or it's a liaison, but it's very, very close. You smile when you're giving me a parking ticket, and I certainly can vouch for that from all the parking tickets I've received at Tauranga City. I always get a nice smile from the parking attendant. Very difficult to be angry with a person who's smiling at you. You asked me to put on the jug for a cup of tea. And we talk about rights of first refusal, and we talk about public-private partnerships, and you don't take anything personally because this is all about our grandchildren. Kia ora mai tātou.
Thank you, Antoine. Comments or questions? Over here, please.
We saw for the demographics the change opportunities.
Two seats, just the microphone, please.
Sorry. We saw from the demographics the opportunities that are coming up in the future, but for a lot of people, the big problem is the educational achievements which are being achieved. And compared to other ethnic groups which seem to do well within the existing system, can you make some comment as to how you see the Maori population achieving better in the educational field?
Oh, thank you for the question. Good question. As I said in the presentation, education is one of the key strands of focus for us moving further. I think at one end, where we've been very much focused on the tertiary, where you get those who are successful, the tall poppies, they are the ones who are going through to tertiary. So we've been helping the low fruit, I suppose, those ones who we know are going to be successful. So we've been supporting those. But what we're also talking about is getting those who have been struggling through mainstream and creating opportunities for them to have success. And we're finding that that's being done in a number of ways. One is being innovative about what is mainstream education and coming up with ways that we can improve performance within mainstream, but also creating parallels where we're building new schools and having new types of schools where we're creating success for those students. One such school, which is called Te Kura Kōkiri, based here in Tauranga, they are at school from 7 o'clock on a Monday morning through to about 9 o'clock on Saturday night, them and their families. So very intensive education program, and they are achieving amazing results, and that's been noticed by the government, and they're trying to look at replicating that model elsewhere. So there's some innovation occurring, but also looking at ways that we can improve even just the results of NCEA. We've got some really good research. If we can just improve slightly the results in NCEA, that will then have a ripple-on effect as that child gets older, and then have opportunities, the different types of tertiary education, not only universities and polytechnics, but other trade training and those types of things.
A question over here, please.
Ai, kia ora ngā mihi ki a koe Antoine, no Tauranga Moana Iwi. Kia ora mo tō mihi ki a mātou, ki a tātou katoa I tēnei wā. Just from a iwi Māori perspective, I kind of grapple with how do we, and you've done an awesome presentation, how do we actually tell our partners or demonstrate to our partners that we actually think differently. We're not financially based, we're whānau, as you put it there. And so, you know, the paradigms are totally different to our world and our partners' world. And I want to just thank you for, you know, because the messages that I put across to tauiwi sometimes receive perhaps like, oh, she's a bit of a tough woman there. But it's just that I'm coming from a different paradigm than others. So it's enlightening to hear that through the statistical kōrero today that Māori are birthing, what is it? Populating, you know, increase in population, and there has to be then a connection to that, like, oh, geez, you know, we're not just a byproduct of something that happened. People come to our land and take it over and confiscate whatever. We're actually part of the equation, and I think that it's perhaps gatherings like this that we need to be acknowledged, because there was one comment that was dropped that, you know, we may need to regulate water. You know, excuse me, tangata whenua, you know, water has always been, like in your presentation, part of us. Ko au te moana, ko te moana, te ko au. So, kia ora mo tō presentation. Lovely, simple, keep it simple, you know, kia ora.
Perhaps two comments in regards to that. Two things that we can do is, one is, you'll know the saying, mahia te mahi, let's get on with the work. So we'll get on and do the good work, and others will see that work and want to be part of it. And then the other part is being much more proactive about setting the agenda. So pipes, footpaths, roads are always on the agenda. Let's really push for some of these other matters, education, health, and other things to be on the agenda as well. So it's a bit of a reciprocity, a give and take in terms of setting that agenda. And I think we'll be on the way.
Any more questions would you have for
Kia ora e te rangatira. He mihi aroha, he mihi nui. We're here at a Rethinking Local Government conference, kōrero, and for me it's how do we get more young Māori involved in local government when the perception is that local government is all about old white men and old white women.
I can't help looking around the room. That is a dilemma. Me standing up here and being one of the youngest people here is cause for concern in the first instance. How do you make local government sexy? I'm not quite sure. How do you make local government a career choice when you're competing with other types of careers? The types of skills and expertise you require in local government are deep and wide. And those same types of skills and expertise that you would need for local government, other disciplines will be calling out for those. So it's a competition for local government to attract and retain young talent, but in particular Māori talent as well. So often Māori feel, they're obviously a minority within a council, and they'll often feel lonely and a little bit disenfranchised, and only the toughest of Māori will survive in a local government environment. And so, one, it's acknowledging their work, but also, I pose the question, what is the ways in which you can attract that talent, but then also keep them? And to me, that's about the evolving and adapting role of local government itself. If it's only going to be about doing what they're required to do, then it will never probably attract the types of people that it's wanting to be part of local government. That's both at an operational level, but also in terms of relevance for people putting their hands up to be councillors and mayors.